Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and non-humans, if there's any in here. I did see a nice little puppy here helping someone out, so it's always good to see the dogs. I want to say, first of all, thank you, just like Brent, to each and every one of you. Without you, we don't have a show, and I would have not had this great career where I get to do what I love to do, gabbing and talking about technology. It's fantastic. So again, thank you from myself and all the other speakers here. I used to think we were the most important part. It turns out we're number 2. So, you're number 1, so that's awesome. I just want to quickly say thank you very much to our event partners and sponsors, Microsoft Corporation as well, particularly for our Visual Studio Live portion of the conference. Without Visual Studio, we don't have that. Our platinum sponsors, Brainstorm, CompuNet, SolarWinds, and WiseJ.net, and our gold sponsors, Progress. Again, go over, visit them, grab the free stickers and other swag, and hopefully you might find some interesting stuff to learn about. Now, before I introduce our speaker, I want to tell you a story about him. So Marcel and I have known each other multiple decades. And that's a wonderful thing in this industry because it goes to the core of what gets me out of bed in the morning and working with technology is what I can do to make the world a better place through the skills that I have here. And Marcel's is is somewhat my mirror image, although he's thinner. People would argue more handsome, and he definitely's got that great European accent because he's out of the Netherlands. But what I love about Marcel is he's old school. He's the person that you can, meet and have a drink and come up with an idea and shake hands, and that is his bond. That is his commitment. That is his loyalty. And he has gone through over the last few years, and God, are we going almost a decade now, where he started up the consulting company that he would want to work for, where he treats his employees as partners, not as family, because you understand there's a difference between family and coworkers, right? But he respects them. He treats them like adults. And in all those years, I've gotten to know him, his lovely wife, Sandra, and his children. He's come by. We've done some great fun things, some vacations. And he really is one of my closest friends who I know I can talk to about anything in the world. And so it brings me such great pleasure for you all to be here and give my good, dear friend, Marcel de Vries, a warm welcome, the future of IT with Marcel.
Thank you so much, Brian, and thank you for having me here today. So you might go, Marcel, the future of IT, that's a very pretentious title, don't you think? Are we going to talk about, let me switch to something that you can see, right? So, pretentious title, are we going to talk about rainbows and unicorns? Is that where the future will be? Or are we going to spice it up a little bit and go for the Back to the Future alternative? What I would like to do today is, of course, after introducing myself a little bit more, give you some insights on what I learned over the years if it comes to where the future might be. I want to bring you on a journey if it comes to how can we think about the future, and for that I will look back a little bit in our past. Now I'm what they call a Gen Xer, and that means at the moment I'm also now an empty nester, which is also an interesting new experience. I was driving back with my wife a few weeks ago and I asked her, so how's the empty nesting going on for you? And she said, freaking awesome. I was like, okay, didn't expect that one, but yeah, we're loving it because we can travel the world. And like Brian said, a couple of years ago I founded a consulting company, and the whole idea was build the company that you want to work for and be the person that people want to work for as well. And over the years, things went a little bit out of hand, I should say, because my whole idea was let's start a company of about 35 people and be done with it and have fun. We are now about 200 people worldwide in Belgium, Netherlands, Germany, the USA. Next year we'll go to the Middle East, UK, Switzerland of all places. So I get to travel the world, which is a real prerogative that I am allowed to do so. And that's where I also meet different people, different cultures, and also a different perspective on where IT will go and how you work with each other. And because I got that worldview in my role as a global managing director and CTO of the Microsoft practice, I get asked this question so often. Marcel, where are things going? What is your vision where stuff will go? Now, by now, you also probably heard that I have a little bit of a funny accent. It has to do with the fact that I'm from the Netherlands. Now, in the Netherlands, we speak Dutch, which is crazy, right? You're from the Netherlands and you speak Dutch. So my dear friend Alan told me that we should call the Netherlands the Dutcherland. I like that more. So I think that's a good idea. So I'm now from Dutcherland. And you know, in the Dutcherlands, we are very direct. So I hope you bear with me if I'm a little bit direct sometimes if it comes to my perspective on things that are happening. No, I won't go with you in politics and other stuff, but that would be too direct. But I want to give you some perspective of what I learned over the years. Now, I want to get started first with where are we as software developers? And yesterday I learned from Matt that this is actually how we live and what we want to do, right? While we're alive, we love to eat, we love to sleep, and then we do coding. And when I saw that picture yesterday, I thought, let me see if I can take that one step further. Because if you look what software is today and how we build software nowadays, there are a lot of things that we need to deal with as software developers. I mean, the complexity of our software is becoming like insane. If you look at the complexity of software that we build today, it's like mind-boggling. And we've seen it in the industry that sometimes it's really hard to keep track of everything that we're doing with all the different frameworks and all the other stuff that you, of course, learn here at a conference like VS Live. And then we go back and we add some new cool stuff to it, and then we forget to clean up the old stuff, and it becomes complexer and complexer and complexer. I mean, who of you have tried to build a Hello World React app nowadays? So when you do a file new in Visual Studio of a React app, do you know how many packages you will suck up from the internet? Around 1,487. And you need to keep track of all that stuff. In Dutchland we call it crap, but all that stuff that we need to keep track of. Now I have a question for all of you. So what happens if you don't touch software for just, let's say, a couple of weeks or a month? Anybody? What happens? Sorry? You start forgetting about what you wrote. That is true as well. But what happens with the software itself? It's outdated. It is vulnerable to all kinds of problems. So in my mind, we have bit rot back. And I'm not sure if you are, as Brian told you, I'm also a golden oldie, right? So I remember the old times where we had bit rot. And there the idea was that you put some stuff on a tape, and then you have your family photos on a tape, and then you try to get the photo back, and all of a sudden your wife is gone. It's like, what happened? Well, some bits flipped, and all of a sudden you got divorced because the data was gone, right? Well, nowadays what we see is that if we do not touch our software, we might even ask ourselves, does it still compile? Because, not sure if you remember, but this week we got now .NET 9. That means that some of the other .NETs are now out of support. Good luck with that. So will it still compile, and are you still in a place where you as an organization and as software developer want to be? Now, over the years, we also had to deal with all kinds of software vulnerabilities. And as an industry, we're not doing great. If you look at the number of vulnerabilities that are found every day, and you might have seen the CVE reports and those kind of things where they list them out, then you see that the number of CVEs are going up, and we as a software industry are just sucking in more packages every day. So in 2022, more than 422 million people were victim of some form of a security breach. Now, Suck that in for a little moment. 422 million people. That is more than everybody in the United States, and some more. And you would say, well, this must scare us off. We must do something about this, right? And then I look at the reports yesterday. 1 billion people are now this year already affected. And the year is not over. This scares the shit out of me. Now the question is, how are we going to deal with all of this? And how do we make the next step as well as software developers and feel ourselves responsible of taking action and saying no more? It is time that our users are safe in using the stuff that we do. Now yesterday, you saw it was all about eat, sleep, and code. And today, there's been an update package for this one. Because I think that it's about eat, sleep, and update your freaking packages. Fix your vulnerabilities. Of course, you do team meetings. Everybody's doing team meetings. I mean, did we forget about them all of a sudden? And then I had to put in an if statement. If time permits, that's when we code. So what you see is that there are a lot of trends going on in our industry, and you see a lot of them also here at a conference like VS Live. And what are the trends that we're having to deal with is, for example, the thing which is called the consumerization of IT. And the consumerization of IT is that nowadays everybody brings their consumer devices into the enterprise, and we work with our consumer devices. We expect that the software in our enterprise is working the exact same way as the stuff that we have on our phones and on our laptops, and we don't want to deal anymore with the old WinForms applications where we need to do swivel chair integration to get anything done. The other thing that is, of course, happening as well is that the cloud is there to stay. And one thing that really keeps me thinking all the time is, I find it so intriguing that the United States is the front runner if it comes to giving us the cloud. You guys have Microsoft, you have AWS, you have Google. Some people call Oracle also a cloud. I don't, but that's another conversation to have. Like I'm saying, I'm trying to be direct enough. But the cloud is there to stay. And here in the United States, you guys are way behind if it comes to adopting the cloud. If I look at how the cloud adoption is here in the United States, I mean, 95% of the stuff that we do is in the cloud. Our government is in the cloud. Our insurance companies are in the cloud. Our banks are in the cloud. Everything is in the cloud. Now, of course, we had a little bit of an advantage because the data center is in Amsterdam. Okay, that helps. But that said, the cloud is there to stay, and that trend is picking up and more and more and more. And it has a profound impact on the software that we make every day. Now, we all might have seen in the schedule that there's something going on with AI. Did you see it? So there might be an inflection point there, and then the big question is, with all that stuff going on, how are you going to deal with this? So what I want to do is say, well, are there things that we can learn from the past, and then see if we can learn from that and then extrapolate into the future? Because that's actually what I use a lot, is that I just reflect on what we've been doing, how we've been doing, and then based on that say, well, that might then go this or this direction, and this is how you build the vision where things might go. So there was the smart folk, or smart person, Confucius, that said, study the past if you want to define the future. You can also have another attitude and say, I'm defining the future today. Also a little bit true, I think. But that said, let's have a look at history and see what we can learn about these things and then extrapolate into the future and, well, at least today. Now, if we go back a little period of time, let's say the 18th century, what happened there is that we had the Industrial Revolution. And in the Industrial Revolution, we used a lot of machines, a lot of new energy sources to get us products. We had all of a sudden a mass consumerization going on, and we could just buy stuff instead of we need to handcraft everything ourselves. So there was a big inflection point for humankind. And that went well for a very long period of time. And then all of a sudden, there was this new thing, which actually was quite revolutionary, which was electricity. Now, electricity, if you look at that and place yourself in that day and time, is like, okay, big deal, guys. I mean, we have our steam engines running our plants. They run the motors that then run the machines that actually produce goods. So now instead of steam, I'm going to use electricity. So what's the freaking deal? Why is this so important? Why is this all of a sudden something that would change the world? Now, can somebody tell me what is so profoundly different about electricity compared to steam? Transmission, perfect. So transmission is the thing that actually removes a constraint that we had in the past, and that is that we had to build the factories near rivers, near water, probably near a forest that you could chop down and feed to the machines. And that's the way you build the factory. So all of a sudden we got the notion of urbanization because we could move into the cities, everybody could live there, we had electricity, and that would then power the engines of the machines. But what is important here to note is that the moment electricity came to be, how many people said, oh, that will influence the way we live together, it will influence the way we do stuff together? Probably nobody, because what we as human beings tend to do is that when something new comes up in our industry, we can only look at it from the frame of reference that we have today on the stuff that we know today. And this is where it becomes challenging to predict the future. Because the only thing we know is our current frame of reference, and the current frame of reference, yes, we're powering engines with steam. So what is the big deal with electricity? It can power an engine. But you cannot think beyond that. And this is what you have to deal with all these things that are happening over time. Now, what happened when we got the combustion engine? Combustion engine was quite a thing, but it was only for the rich, and it was only for the few, because where the heck do you get gasoline? I mean, there was no infrastructure. There was infrastructure to feed horses. There was infrastructure to get saddles. There was infrastructure to rest the horses. You could breathe horses, but nobody knew what a car was. And this is where you also hear the famous words from Henry Ford, like, if we ask our customers what they need, they ask for faster horses. Because that is the frame of reference that we think, because we have not seen beyond what is possible. Now, if you look at this, and then the impact this had on our society, it was huge. If you look at 1900 and look at what is going on in the street, you see one car, and the rest is all horses. Can you imagine the smell in that street? Now go to 1913, and then you see all cars. Can you imagine the smell in that street? No horse shit anymore, but gasoline, and lots of it. And back in the days, they were not so efficient, so they were just leaking gasoline all over the place, right? So you can imagine what the impact was. And what was the impact now on all those industries that were building saddles, and were breeding horses, and were creating or farming food for the horses? I mean, that's such an impact on our society. But people looked at us like, combustion engine, yeah, it can do the same as electricity, so what's the big deal? Well, the big deal is that all of a sudden we got extended range, and we didn't have a cable that needs to go to infinity to drive somewhere, right? So it removed the constraint. Now, what happened when this person got on stage and gave us the iPhone? So who remembers that moment? Okay, so I'm not the oldest one in the room. That's good. Now, what happened here is that we got the mobile phone reinvented, and what happened is, some of you might find a YouTube video where Steve Ballmer goes like, which idiot will ever buy a phone of $1,500? Well, we have one here. It's Brian. But the thing is that we didn't look beyond the constraints it was elevating and it was lifting. Because the only thing we could see is like, it's just another phone. I can make a phone call with it. Oh, I can also tap some stuff, but hey, fun, right? And the thing is that some things came together that made the iPhone all of a sudden take off. Now, some of you might say that it's just the iPhone on its own, but there was something else going on, and I'm not sure if you've seen, for example, the movie on BlackBerry and what happened there. But what actually happened is that the telcos were actually the foundation of the liftoff of the iPhone. And it had to do with the fact that back in the days, we had our BlackBerries. Well, people had BlackBerries, and they were like the rich and famous had the BlackBerry, right? You could do email, and it was so cool. Everybody thinks now, oh, can I get rid of the freaking email? But yeah, that was cool back in the days. And what happened is that BlackBerry figured out a way to stretch actually the protocols and stuff on the wireless network to cope with all the data. But you were still paying by the hour per minute. So the plans that you had was so many minutes, and actually they pushed the data over that. Now what nobody saw coming is that all of a sudden the telco said, yeah, we are running into this freaking constraint of time. We cannot bend time, right? They wanted to bend time, but it didn't happen. And they had the problem that they couldn't ask more for the same minute. So what they did is they came up with a novelty idea. We are going to let you pay for a data plan. And data plans can be in any size you want them. And for that, we can also subsidize the fact that you are now paying more for the data plans, and hence we can lower the cost for the iPhone, and all of a sudden stuff took off because AT&T and others bundled that with their data plans that they wanted to bring to the market because that's where the money was. Could we have thought about that when that moment happened? Probably not. One of the things that we also couldn't think about is the fact that this also happened. Now, we have the Pope elections in 2005, and everybody is actually looking at what color of smoke is coming out of the chimney, and if it was white, then we have a new Pope, right? So they go like, oh, no, it's black. Okay, we'll wait in a couple of hours, and oh, no, it's still black. And then all of a sudden, yeah, it's white, and everybody's happy we have a new Pope. Now, what happened here in 2013, everybody is looking on their freaking phone. Back in the days, it was even cool to have an iPad as your phone. Nowadays, we don't do that anymore. Who of you have been to a concert lately? A concert. Yeah, you wanted to see your famous artist. Were you able to see your famous artist, or had you had to stare to the freaking phone of the guy in front of you or the girl in front of you that is taking the video that nobody will ever watch? And all our cloud storage providers love that shit. But that's what we're doing here. All of a sudden, it had such a profound impact on how we experience stuff. Can we still be in the moment? Probably not. I had the prerogative to bring my son to Seattle this summer. And also a VS Live, and I had a nice dinner with Brian and my son. And I thought I'd take him out to all the nice restaurants that I learned over the years that are really good to go to. I'm there at Ascent. I'm not sure if you know the place. It's overlooking parts of Seattle. You can actually see the Seattle Space Needle when it's nice weather. And we were sitting there, and we were asking for a dessert. And the dessert that you can have there is something that is with the dry ice, and it gives like this cloud on top of your table. It's just a whole happening. So what do you do when such a thing happens? You pick out your freaking phone and you start filming it, right? So then my son goes to, and tells me, Dad, can you just stop doing that? I go, what? You're asking me to not take pictures? I'm not taking videos? And he goes, yeah, Dad, are you aware of the fact that because we're taking pictures all the time, we forgot to tell the story? We're coming home saying to Mom that we had this amazing dinner, and the only thing that you will do is, yeah, we had this amazing dinner. Flip, 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 flip. We're done. Good. And he wanted to tell the story about what was going on and how we experienced that evening. So the effect it has on us as a society, we could have never thought that this would happen to us if we just looked at the thing as a freaking phone that you can touch. You must have seen these people as well. You bump into them sometimes. In Asia, they have a solution for that. You have like, this is where you are on your phone, and you can bump into stuff, and this is where you're not on your phone. Now, often the people that are on the phone forget that they are in their lane, but that's another thing to deal with. Now, looking at history is so interesting if you look at what the effects are that we cannot imagine. So can we imagine what happened, or what is happening, when the whole paradigm shift happens if it comes to hardware and data centers? I was already alluding to it a little bit, but what you see is that since we are in a frame of reference, how do most people perceive the cloud? It's just another data center. This is the way we look at that stuff. Now the question is, if it's just another data center, why would I move to the cloud? What is so profoundly different there? I'm paying more for a VM than I pay in my own data center, so why would I move? Because we're looking at the wrong thing. We're not looking at the constraints that is elevating. And then the question is, how do we deal with that as organizations? Organizations deal with this with, of course, change programs. And what are the change programs that we're doing? Probably all of you have done it. Who is doing Agile today? Agile. Who's doing Waterfall? Who's doing whatever he wants? Okay. That's good. That's cool. Now what you see is that these organizations, they really want to make this change, and they go like, oh yeah, I read this report. This report is about DevOps, and DevOps will give me 200 times more frequent deployments. It will give me 3 times lower change failure rates. I need that thing. I want DevOps. And you go like, we can do DevOps. Go to a conference, learn about DevOps, go back. We can do DevOps. And the thing, what happens then, is that we run into the challenge that actually moving to DevOps is not something you can buy. It is something that is a profound change in the organization. It's about behavioral change. It's about how you organize yourself. It's about delivering through value streams, which is a team of people that work together and deliver something to production, preferably like any time of day. I always set on the constraint that at least 30 times a day so that we are actually moving the needle. And then I work with these organizations, and they say, yeah, you build it, but yeah, you still run away. You're not really responsible. And for that responsibility, we always have that part of the organization that is our infrastructure team. So then people move to DevOps, and yeah, we move to DevOps, but we separate the development and infrastructure. I go like, okay, you're trying to do what? Almost. Because the problem that we're dealing here with is that it is hard to make an organizational change. And what we make a promise. We make a promise. We can do this. It will take us about 2 years, 3 years. We will make it happen. And then what happens is meetings and managers, the M&Ms, right? So we have meetings and managers, and then they set KPIs, killing performance immediately. And those KPIs are about that we need to go to DevOps within 3 years, and then because we have these KPIs where we can get our bonuses and get our double pay on our salaries and all these other things, we go like, I'm freaking gonna make it. I'm gonna make DevOps work in our organization. So who of you are doing DevOps today? Who of you have like job postings out there where they ask for a DevOps engineer? Oh, come on. And then the DevOps engineer is actually somebody that can do YAML pipelines and then is dealing with other people's shit. And why is that? Because we made the promise and we need to make it happen. So what happens is we change the narrative. We change the narrative of what DevOps is about. What we're starting to do is that DevOps all of a sudden is not cool anymore, and now we're now doing site reliability engineering. That's where the new shiny object is. Oh, but yeah, the site reliability engineering, yeah, it was very expensive to get site reliability engineers, so now we move to platform engineering. And this is how our industry, and pardon my Dutcherness, is fucking up the stuff. The thing is that we need to rethink what we're doing in order to make the next step. The moment we get something that can alleviate a constraint, we need to rethink the way we're doing things. And that's why when I'm helping organizations to move to DevOps, the first thing I do is I set some boundaries. I say, what we are going to do here is we're going to deliver 30 times a day to production. Because people go there and like, yeah, but I don't need to be there 30 times a day. I say, no, I know. But otherwise, I'm not getting rid of all the crap. I'm not getting rid of change advisory boards. I'm not getting rid of all the freaking PowerPoints. I'm not getting rid of all the stuff that you're doing in order to get to production, which is not coding. So you need to make really big changes to make things happen. So the cloud is not your new data center. Think about what constraints it's removing. And then all of a sudden, we see the light. Now, let me share with you some interesting things that I see happening in my consulting business, where we get asked, hey, Marcel, can you help us move to the cloud? And I said, well, yeah, why not? We can do that. I mean, there's money to be made, so we will be able to help you out. And then they come up with the idea, we are going to create a team that moves everybody to the cloud. Who has such a team? Nobody? Well, we only do it in Europe. That might be the case as well. That's why we are in a bad shape, I think. No, so what's actually happening here is I found a picture on the internet that actually depicts what's happening here. Whoa. So what was happening here? Anybody any idea? So what's happening here is you have your normal project that's just doing its thing. And then we have the cloud move project that all of a sudden comes by, like, oh, let's change some stuff. Now, everybody is asking, who's that dude? Any ideas? Oh, no, it's much better. It's not a developer. It's your CIO and CTO. They're running for their lives because they will get scared shitless. Now, the other thing what we see is then, oh, let's ask operations how we will move to the cloud, because that's the department responsible for all infrastructure. And hey, it's just another data center, right? So ask them, how are we going to move to the cloud? Now, I learned that in the United States, you guys love this specific date in the year where you love to eat turkeys. Now, you just asked the turkey, when will you be eaten? I can tell you, this turkey is going to tell you that the cloud sucks. The cloud is dangerous. There will be a Patriot Act coming after you. Your data will not be safe. And all other things that you will have seen during all those meetings why we should not move to the cloud. Then we have the Cloud Center of Excellence, one of my beloved things. Now, the Cloud Center of Excellence, by the way, it comes in two flavors. You have the flavor that is good and the flavor that is not so good. Now, the not so good flavor of the Cloud Center of Excellence is all about, let's create this one team that knows everything about the cloud. Normally, we hire companies like Xebia to manage the Cloud Center of Excellence, and then everything that needs to go to the cloud goes through the Cloud Center of Excellence. Let me tell you, this is a very stupid idea. Why? Because you're creating a bottleneck in your organization. It's just a small team. How can they handle all the workloads that need to be moved to the cloud? It's impossible. You need to come up with a better idea. And what we are doing in organizations, and I see that over and over again, is that we're not looking at what has changed. So what we're doing is we're going to the cloud, and what we do is we replicate the data center. And then we ask ourselves, why did I get such a high bill again? Well, because you didn't get the memo. It is not your next data center. You need to do it in a different way. It's about zero trust. It's about landing zones. It's about a hub-spoke model where you have per workload something that is specific for that workload so that you can also tie it back with FinOps so that people know where the money is flowing into. We are not embracing the new possibilities. We're just thinking within our frame of reference, and that is actually what I've seen over the years. It is constantly over and over again, biting us in the rear. One of the things that you see in organizations is that we have this ability to put in a police force. Oh, you're not allowed to go to the cloud. So now we have, who of you are enterprise architects, by the way, before I insult people? So then we have enterprise architects that then are asked to tick mark every time that you're doing it in the right way. And they come up with, like, you're not allowed to go to the cloud because of, and then I come up with all the reasons again. If we really want to embrace change in our industry, we need to do it in a different way. And this is going to be challenging. But we do know how to do this as a society. We have learned it many, many years ago, but we're just not able to actually move that into our organizations because it requires some very important thing, and I will come to that. The model that you actually should adopt is not a police force model. You should adopt a model which I would like to mention is the lifeguard model. And the lifeguard model is completely different. The lifeguard model is about, so you want to swim? Okay. I will learn, or I teach you how to swim. And once you're proficient in swimming, I'm giving you your certificate, you can swim now. Now, the other thing that we will do as lifeguards is not only teach you how to swim, we also, the moment we wake up in the morning and see, ooh, strong currents, let us hoist the red flag. It's not the best day to go out into the sea. Now, if you still decide to ignore the red flag and you start drowning, what happens? They come after you. They come with a boat. They go rescue you. They say, hey, dude, are you okay? It was not smart, but come on, let me give you some additional training so that you can do better next time. Now, see how you can translate it into your organization. Because if you do this, all of a sudden you are empowering everybody to move to the cloud or to move whatever thing that is changing in our industry. Now then, let's reflect on this and now look what is going to happen with all the advances in AI. What's going to happen? I mean, I had a lot of chats with people, and some people really like, oh yeah, this AI thing is pretty cool. And other people are like, yeah, it will just blow over, will not happen. We're not doing it, it's not allowed. And what you see is that, and this is a prediction of Gartner, by the way, don't believe Gartner all the time because they predicted that Windows Phone would be doing great. But they do say that if you look at AI and what AI is doing in our society, that it will have an effect on us like the steam engine, like electricity, like the internet that came up. So it will be there to stay, and it's also then our question, how are we going to embrace this and adopt this? And then I will ask you the question, how do we program in the future? I think that we will not program, and now I'm on dangerous grounds here with all of you. I think we will not be programming in C#. I think we'll not be programming in JavaScript. I think we will not be doing Java anymore. Because we will be programming in natural language. We will just describe what we need, and the AI will take care of it in just us putting in natural language, and it spitting out the actual executable. Now, then I ask you the following question, is code quality any relevance anymore? And you see that I had the ducks for cover in there as well, right? Because what you see at the moment is exactly the same what happened when we got the cloud and when we got all the other advances in our IT industry, is that now you see report after report reporting, oh yeah, but the code quality of these AIs is terrible. It's non-maintainable. You cannot use that stuff. Then, of course, you have GitHub that says, oh, no, all's fine. Don't look here. But the thing is that, of course, the industry that is pushing the envelope on where we are going are constantly showing us what the advances are. But then the people that are more or less scared and are risk-averse go like, yeah, but it's not producing the code that I need. I am not able to maintain that, so how are we going to do that? But then my question to you to reflect on this question is, what was the last time you checked if your compiler created the right assembler? Who did that for the last time? Nobody, right? So why would we be compiling into something that is C# or Java or whatever, when then we will move on and then actually to executables? This is Henry Ford's statement. If we are asking people that know this frame of reference what we need, we ask for faster C#. Not faster horses because they're gone. But this is where we're looking at. And then what I find intriguing is that over decades now, what have we been doing with specifications? We moved specifications into stories. And we now have the stories on the storyboard. And what will happen is that we need more specification because the only thing these freaking AIs understand is text. Lots of it. So now you see all of a sudden with, for example, GitHub Copilot Workspace, that you can feed it a specification and you can iterate over what it will be generating for you. You see even GitHub Spark nowadays where you can just say, can you create me a nice little game, tic-tac-toe, and it will actually spit out a new application that actually executes. Now, we are not going to all get wealthy about selling tic-tac-toe that we built with Spark, but it's just, I would say, this little, and that's why I love the name, little spark that will change what we will be doing in our industry, in my perspective. And if you look where things are going is that we are looking and working on these large language models every day, and those large language models give us the perspective of, okay, how is it doing compared to I'm asking a human being a question or a coding exercise? And you see at the moment that if you're just doing a so-called one-shot question, that these GPT-3.5 is not that great. It's like, what is it, 40% something? If you ask that GPT-4, it's already in the 60, 70% range, but if we do it differently and we use this notion of agentic AI, where we have LLMs and small language models talk to each other, and we create this network of agents, then all of a sudden what happens is they become much more proficient. And you see the orange arrows there, where the industry is moving. And that's where you see that a lot of stuff is happening for us while we're not even witnessing that. Now, first of all, I thought AI, LLMs, agentic AI, nice new keyword, Satya, thank you for that. I mean, he always comes up with new names, right? And then I thought, let's give it a try. And I'm a conference organizer myself. I organize Techorama in Belgium and not in Germany yet, but in the Netherlands. And one of the things that we need to deal with, and probably here VS Live as well, is how many people are in the room because of fire marshals, and we need to know those numbers, right? Now, do you have an app that can count the number of people? No. So we have always people counting the number of people in the room. It's just a daunting task. So I went to a site called landing.ai, and I asked it, can you create me a program that based on this picture that is showing a presenter in front of a room, how many people are in the room? And what it will do is it will start reasoning. It will start saying, okay, in order for me to answer that question, I need to analyze the photo, get rounded boxes around every face that I see, and then based on that, I can count the number of people that are in there, and I can then give you a number. And what actually happens, it starts generating, and then it starts compiling, and then it compiled, and then it failed. It crashed. You go like, oh, no, that was not the really great exercise, right? No, what happens is it takes the log files, it takes the exception, and all of a sudden, oh, I know how to fix that. It fixes the code, it executes again, and it gave me the number, 320. I can tell you in that room, there were 324 people based on our counting. I think that's close enough. And I think that these things will change the way we think about how do we build applications for our organization. Do users build their own applications all of a sudden? Can they just make changes to our applications just by natural language? I would love to have some additional fields, and those additional fields will be generated automatically for me. We're just getting started. This is the big bang moment if it comes to what is happening here. Now, what I find interesting is what can we learn from the past if it comes to, for example, AI adoption? And what I see is that, of course, the same patterns are over and over again. We're asking the developer, what are we going to do with AI? And they say, well, probably not soon. The other thing that happens is we're not allowed to use AI in our organizations. I mean, who has the policy now that you're not using or not allowed to use, for example, LLMs or ChatGPT or those kind of things? Yeah, that's what's happening. And we need to figure out another way. And what I find interesting is then, why is this happening all the time? Why is the pattern over and over and over again? And then I came to this epiphany, and I think, I know why. Because of humans. Because what happens here is we are creatures that have fear. And you might say, oh, Marcel, I'm so fearless. Don't worry, I'm not feared of AI. No, but that's not what I'm saying. The thing is that what I'm saying is that every day we are driven by some fears. And why is that? Because otherwise you would not be sitting here, you would be dead on the pavement of the road. Because you're fearful that the car will hit you, so you will wait for the red sign. Okay? So fear is sometimes good, but it can also lead to certain behavior that you see, and it's very interesting to reflect on that yourself. What are the fears that I'm dealing with every day? For example, the fear of losing your job will have an impact on how you will deal with certain changes. The fear of feeling embarrassed. My colleague is doing that stuff, but I look so stupid now. Or the other thing is that, my colleague can do that, but I will never be able to now again adopt this new stuff because I'm getting old and I'm getting tired and I don't want to learn this stuff anymore. Am I still good enough to make the next move? And what is interesting is that this is supported by a lot of studies that have been done in our industry. One of the things that you can look at is, for example, the Maslow pyramid, where you see that based on where you are in that Maslow pyramid, you will have the fear of losing your job, or the fear of feeling embarrassed, or the fear of feeling inferior. Now, what is interesting is that there's been a study about growth mindset. And what happens is if you have a more growth mindset, you're less dealing with those fears every day than when you are in what we call a fixed mindset. And Carol Dweck wrote a book about this. It's terrible to read, but very interesting. And if you look at the gist of what she states there, is that there are two mindsets. And let me emphasize, there is no good, there is no bad. It's just another way that you think. And we have been grown up since kindergarten because of our educational system as well, on primarily the fixed mindset. And why is that? Because fixed mindset gives the incentive on accomplishing a goal. And accomplishing the goal is that you got your KPI right, so you get a better salary. Nobody ever gives you a better salary because you did a good job or you did your best. So our systems are focused on fixed mindset, but what we need as organizations is a growth mindset. And that means that if you look at, for example, a fixed mindset and looking at how do you want to be perceived by others, it's about being perceived as smart. Well, growth mindset is more about being a learner, a learn-it-all instead of a know-it-all. If you look at, for example, effort, doing an effort for something is more seen as something that is a negative, while people doing an effort on a growth mindset have a much positive feeling about doing that step. And at challenging seeking, you avoid challenges or you seek challenges. And the other thing which I find very nice is other people's success are viewed as a threat, or they're viewed as, holy shitballs, I can learn from that. How did they do that? Because I want the same. And that is a complete different way of wiring yourself on how to deal with this. Are you in for a little experiment here? No? Stand up, please. Because I have a little experiment here where you can learn and reflect a little bit on yourself and the mindset you're in. So I'm going to ask you the following question. I want you to tie your shoelaces with one hand on your back, and you get 30 seconds to do it now. Who's doing it? Who's doing it? Some people are doing it, that's nice. Tie your shoelaces with one hand on your back. Okay, I think that was enough pain and suffering for everybody, so go sit. Because what I actually did is I helped you detect on your perspective on taking an effort. Could you learn from this or not? Did you want to do it? Or avoid challenges, right? And you might go like, Marcel, I have no freaking interest in tying my shoelaces with one hand on my back. I will not do that. I understand. But it's more like, and that is the actual question behind this, what did you feel the moment I asked you this question? What did you feel? So don't come up with like, I thought, no, because that's thinking. What did you feel? Where do you feel it? Did you feel it in your belly? Did you feel like, oh, there we go again? You want to take the challenge, but I see many people say, no, no way, I'm not doing this. Do you see how many people are around me that I can embarrass myself? I do not want to do this. And this is the mindset that we're often in that then ensures that we are going to deal with change based on our mindset. And only the new mindset will help you in actually adopting that change. I'm not saying it's simple. I'm actually saying it's really hard. But if you look at how you can make the change in your organization, go through the lifeguard model, have a new mindset, and look at it from that perspective, you can do so many other things and become a winner if it comes to all these changes. You need to be able to celebrate your mistakes. You go like, yeah, sure. Well, I wanted, like I said, I wanted to build a company that I wanted to work for. And I was dealing with the fact that I needed to have people certified, because otherwise Microsoft will not give you your solution provider designation. They will not hire you to do work. So we needed to get the freaking certification in. I can tell you there's one thing that I really hate, and it's doing certification. So what do I as a manager? Well, I actually call myself a leader and not a manager, but that's another conversation to have. Is I ask my team, guys and girls, I really need you to get the certification. And they go, yeah, sure, we'll take care of it. And then a month later, nothing happened. So why didn't it happen? Because they hate the freaking certifications, just like I hate them. So I say, don't worry about it. Show me that you failed so that we get rid of the fears. Show me that you failed. And when you fail, we do it again because then you know what to learn. And that's the way we're going to do it. Go, yeah, that's a great idea. It's a great idea. We will do it. And then 2 or 3 weeks later, nobody showed me their failures. Nothing was happening. You go like, yeah, you're sure, you're first. And what I all of a sudden discovered that leadership is all about taking the first step. Leadership is all about showing how it's done. So what I did is I started showing my failures. I started showing like, oh, I failed the AZ900. And they go like, what? Yeah, I failed the AZ900. Why? Because I wanted to show that I'm doing what I'm asking from you. And then I passed. And then what I saw is that other people started doing it as well. And all of a sudden, we became the most certified service line within our business. Because I had to celebrate my own mistakes and my own failures before others can do it. And that is all about leadership and leading your team forward. So it's not about them showing that they failed on using AI or another tool. You show them that you failed as well. Feel that that is the way you will make the change. So the future of technology leadership will be in the more vulnerable, that will be the better leaders. Not the people that are talking down to you and come up with the killing performance immediately indicators. It will be about those that will go with you to the front line and make the difference. You drive innovation by, for example, adopting this concept of what we call an engineering culture. And an engineering culture is about embracing, for example, the fact that we have these platforms that we can use, that we are embracing the fact that we want to have an epic workplace, that we are embracing that we want to have smooth delivery and we want to do everything in an automated way, and that we are there for each other and share knowledge, for example. It's a knowledge-driven organization. And we documented this, and you can look it up on the interwebs, how to make this happen in your own organization. But this is all about making that organizational change to adopt all the change that is happening. Because today it's AI, but what will it be tomorrow? I don't know. So what you see is that where do you start with adopting for change is you need to start, first of all, bridging the skill gap. Get educated. And that's one of the things that I also learned, what I love about going all over the world, is that if I go to the Middle East, billions and billions and billions they're investing in education there. Because they know that oil will not bring them to the next step. So they are educating everybody Billions are invested there. What are we doing here in Europe or in the US? There's almost no investments. And why? Because we become, sorry for my directness, fat and complacent. Because we became complacent with where we are in our lives. We don't want to work the 40 hours anymore. We want to be on the beach every day and still make like, 150 to 100K a year. I can tell you that in all these other areas of the world, they are just working hard to actually beat us all. So we can just sit here and think that it will not happen to us. But we need to bridge that skill gap. You need to bridge that skill gap in your own organization. You need to start, experiment, and try to create an environment where you can also do these experimentations in a safe way, so that you're not all of a sudden putting all the data on the internet so that everybody can use it, right? There needs to be some, I would say, safeguards in place. Now, don't fear the failure. Remember, celebrate the failure, because that is actually what will bring you to the next step. Because if you look at all the successful people in the world that we look up to, they did not get there by just sitting on their ass and waiting for something to happen. They tried and tried and tried and failed and failed and failed. And after that, they became successful. Look at all these people that have been successful. They failed multiple times. Look at organizations that are successful. They failed multiple times. Because they knew how to embrace the failure in such a way that they can learn and enhance. You don't learn to walk by following the rules. I mean, you learn by doing it, falling, and doing it over again. And there's one thing that we can be very certain of, and that is the only constant that we are needing to deal with is change. And to close off with a bright person's view on this is that it's not the strongest nor the most intelligent. It's the one most adaptable to change that will survive. I hope this gives you some ideas on how to reflect on the future, because actually the future of IT lies in you. Thank you so much.